Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to the Spun Today podcast. This is episode number 7. I am your host, Tony Ortiz. This intro is going to be pretty short because I have a fairly long episode for you guys today. And to break from the monotony of the short stories and free writing and the whole writing theme of the podcast, I have a treat for you guys today. I know for some of you that are tired of the shitty writing, me just breaking away from that for a bit is treat enough, but there is more. Today I have the first guest of the Spun Today podcast, which is my older brother David, and I had the idea for this a while ago. I would say maybe like a month and a half ago or so. It is part one of a 2-part podcast, and this first part was recorded already. It was pre-recorded prior to my brother having his first child. My beautiful niece Emma was born on October 27th, and we recorded this podcast probably a week or two before that. Pretty much what I wanted to do with this episode and the one that's going to follow this one is to just have like a pre-conversation of what it's like for him, what he's going through, what he's anticipating, how he feels about becoming a father and stuff like that. And, we recorded it again prior to the baby being born. And that's going to wrap up this episode. And then the next episode that you'll hear 2 weeks after this one is another podcast that is already recorded. And we pretty much speak about the aftermath of baby Emma and what it's like on that side of parenthood. I thought it would be pretty cool to compare and contrast, both sides of this life-changing experience that he's going through, and would be interesting to put out there. Maybe somebody going through a similar situation or about to go through a similar situation can gain something from it. And it was just cool to sit down with him and shoot the shit about this experience, and we wound up speaking about our childhood and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool. It was a good time. Let me know what you guys think after you take a listen. Also, before we get started with that, check out the new Facebook page, facebook.com/Spun Today. I switched it. I figured out how to switch it from a regular profile page that you would have for your personal self to what do they call it? A business, not a business page, a fan page, Facebook fan page. So you guys can check that out. Facebook.com/Spun Today. Also on the website, spuntoday.com. On the contact tab, which is on the upper right hand corner of the page, you'll see the link for the contact/donate page. You can click on that. At the bottom, there is an option to sign up to the new Spun Today newsletter. I definitely promise not to bombard anyone with spam or anything like that. It's pretty much just going to be a heads up email for whenever new content is posted, new podcast episodes, new short stories, stuff like that. And of course you can unsubscribe at any time if you do find it annoying for whatever reason. And as always, follow me on Twitter at Spun Today, and also on Instagram at Spun Today. And check out the created.com/Spun Today page if you're interested in any prints of any of the photography on the spuntoday.com/photography website. And now, without further ado, here is my conversation with my older brother, David Ortiz, not to be confused with the Boston Red Sox baseball player, about becoming a father and what he's anticipating prior to the birth of his child. Enjoy. So it shows the meter?
Yes. Yes, I see it does.
It's decent. For a free app.
Is it recording now already?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Alright, so I should have wrote questions.
I told you. That would have been a good idea to write questions. But right now I'm talking, like, I feel like there's a third person in the room. Like, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to an audience.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, so basically, you're my brother. You've been blessed with my presence for about 30 years now.
You just mix facts and opinions.
No. And you are about to have a kid. Your own kid, your first child. And this is pretty much just like where you're at, your mind state, where you're thinking, where you're anticipating, you know, ideas, plans, thoughts for the future with your daughter, soon to be daughter.
It's cool. You sound like my girlfriend.
That's pretty much it.
Actually, I have a question for you to start it off.
What?
What was your initial thought when I told you that I was going to have a kid?
It was definitely positive. But it was positive and cool, but also like it was positive and cool in itself, but it was also like in a more selfish, like, yes, he's gonna go first kind of way.
Wow. That is messed up.
No, that's not bad. That's just...
No, actually, no.
You being the older brother, like, it's like, I don't know. It made sense.
It made sense.
Kind of. You know what I mean? Not that it has to go in that order, but it was just...
I mean, for years we've always sort of, like, debated about who was going to go first.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it didn't make sense. You had the girlfriend for 5 years, right? And I didn't have a girlfriend.
Chronologically, it made sense, but just not logically when you factor that type of stuff in.
There you go.
But like,
fuck logically.
On the outside,
right?
Like it makes sense.
Like from other people's perspectives.
Yeah,
outside looking in.
It's definitely exciting. Like I'm like more excited now than I was before. Like it was more like unbelievable before. Like it was more kind of like, really, is this really like happening kind of thing? But now it's like getting closer to it, so it's like, oh shit, I'm gonna be an uncle and stuff.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's exciting. So I can imagine for you, that obviously has to be like 1,000-fold increase.
I wouldn't put it
like
that way.
All mixed emotions and shit.
I would say I feel about the same. At first, I was surprised and shocked, and now it's like definitely a reality, and I'm much more excited, and the year has gone by pretty quickly. Well, actually, you know what? I lost notion of time this year.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's sort of like, all right, Janet, who's my girlfriend, is pregnant, and that's it. Time stopped from then on, and now we're waiting for the baby to come out. So, March, April, May, June passed by. Birthdays, holidays have passed by, and it all just feels like pregnancy. There's, I have conversations with people, and they're telling me about their lives, and you're telling me about what's going on with you, and at the end of every sentence, I'm just thinking about pregnancy. It's pretty consuming.
It's in the forefront of your mind always.
Yeah, it's definitely consuming. I know that because, I have a good friend of mine. We talk all the time, and somehow or other, our conversation always turns into my life and the pregnancy. So and she always cuts me off there and is like, "Oh, I gotta go," because I talk about it so much. It's very consuming.
All our conversations turn into that too. So
yeah,
she's getting pregnant.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty single-minded, I guess.
Not that. You just focus on that. It's like a life-altering, changing experience. Anybody in that position,
It is.
that I've spoken to react like the same way. Like I have coworkers that have recently had kids like a year ago, a few months ago. One of them that actually got his wife pregnant again. He just told me yesterday actually.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was telling him about you that you're about to have a kid, and he was like, "Damn, I definitely know how that feels and stuff like that." Because he like literally like less than a year ago had his kid, and now his wife is pregnant again.
Oh,
so he's
my
like
God.
going through the same thing again.
Ghetto twins.
Yeah. And for those listening, you're expecting a baby girl
Emma.
named Emma.
She should be about 7 pounds right now.
Yeah. Last weigh-in was like 6.7.
6.10 ounces.
Oh, yeah,
and that
16.
was last week, which is what? Like maybe like on the 13th, I think. Janet had a doctor's appointment.
Okay.
Let me just fact check that because, this is going to air. Yes, on the 13th.
And your daughter might hear it one day.
Yes, exactly. I'll probably be totally different from today. From when she's hearing this podcast, which is today. Mm-hmm. And then, like, let's say, 10, 20 years from now, if she ever does listen to this podcast, I'd probably be a totally different man by then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally defeated by life. And my teenage daughter who has, broken my heart over and over again.
Who better not be dating.
Yes. She better not be dating.
She
better not know what a 2-piece bikini feels like.
She should be well into the nunnery or the nun school by now.
I wouldn't want her to go that far. I just want her to learn like 6 languages. Because a person who knows 6 languages has no time for bullshit. Like they're busy reading books and, updating their vocabulary and growing.
They're busy with bullshit in different languages.
Yes, exactly. I'd rather her be busy with that kind of bullshit. I don't really want her to be a nun. I mean, I want her to have a kid and, experience the full life cycle.
Yeah.
I don't want her to be that selfless.
True.
But yeah, no, this totally changes you. I was thinking today, like, how we're going to start the podcast. And the only thing I could think of was, like, the day that I found out that Janet was pregnant. And, that day was a pretty strange day, man.
How'd you feel how did you hear about it?
Well,
and then how'd you feel after?
All right, so let me lead you up to that day, right? I found out Janet was pregnant, like, at the end of February. But however, before she got pregnant, we were always arguing. And now looking back, we were basically arguing about me being emotionally immature. That was our big argument always. That was our probably only argument. I mean, we still don't really argue about anything, now that we're together.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a positive. But our biggest argument was always that. Was basically, me being emotionally mature. So, we had one of those arguments.
Followed by, and you're the father of my child.
Yeah, basically that's how it went. I mean, we were arguing about something so stupid. I think it was like, I forgot. It was really stupid.
Most arguments are.
Yeah. It was totally stupid. Especially now that there's a kid coming. I mean, it was like it sounds extra stupid now. It was over a tattoo. But anyways, the whole point is, I hung up the phone with her. The night before she told me she was pregnant, I was like, I am never talking to this woman again. And I had a plan, and I was like, we've been here before, and when she calls me, when she texts me, or she comes over to say hi to me because we work together, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
I am going to just put up a wall, and I'm gonna ignore her, and I'm gonna do that for about a week, and then, hopefully a couple of weeks later we're not, she's gonna try to talk to me again, and I'm still gonna keep up that wall, and then eventually she'll leave me alone. Like, that was my big plan, And so I go to sleep.
Multi-layered plan.
Yeah, that was my plan. I had a plan for the plan, And then so all right, so we finish arguing. The night before. I hang up the phone. I go to sleep, and
The next day you go to work.
The next day I go to work. I'm having my almond butter sandwich, and all I see is a cell phone being thrown on my desk, and Janet looking down at me saying, "Be mad now." And as soon as she said that, I knew exactly what it was. And I looked down at her phone, and it's a picture of a pregnancy test.
Damn.
And I am like, oh, she's pregnant. And I am not surprised. And I just look at her, and the first thing I tell her, because she looks like she's about to freaking pass out, and she's nervous, and she looks like she just came from hell. And I was like, don't worry. This isn't the end of the world. That's the only thing I can think of.
That's comforting.
That's what I told her. And she was like, I know. But she looked like really nervous and scared. Should I say her side of the story, or I don't know, maybe you can...
It's up to you.
So the night before, Janet was worried about being pregnant, and she had bought a pregnancy test about a week before. And so she checked the pregnancy test, and when she checks the pregnancy test the week before, it says she's not pregnant. So that night, Janet goes and gets a tattoo. The night before I found out she was pregnant. The night before we both found out she was pregnant.
Okay.
She goes and gets a tattoo. And I'm pissed off at her because she didn't tell me she was going to get a tattoo that night. So, she sends me a text telling me like, "Oh, I got a tattoo." And so, that's it. I'm mad over some bullshit. So she.
But it sounds like something you would speak about.
Huh?
But it does sound like something you would speak about.
What does that mean?
A tattoo. Like, it sounds like something that would come up. Like, it's not like a...
She's...
Yeah. I just got a burger kind of thing.
I have selective hearing. I mean, she had been mentioning it, but I didn't know she was serious about it. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. But she didn't tell me she was getting a tattoo that day.
That's different then.
Right. She had been mentioning it. So it turns out that her and her best friend were going to go to the gym. And, her best friend just out of the whim was like, hey, let's go check out tattoos. Today you're getting the tattoo that you always talk about. And so she went to the tattoo place, and she's looking around, and she gets a tattoo. And so, I didn't know any of that. And I was just like, oh, you just got a tattoo out of the blue. And we were supposed to go on a date, actually. That's what happened. We were supposed to go on a date. And instead she texted me telling me that she got a tattoo. So I was like, wow, you ditched me on a date to go get a tattoo. So anyways,
And that's what sparked, like, the whole argument.
Yeah. But it wasn't even an argument, actually.
Before finding out that she was pregnant.
Before finding out that she was pregnant. I mean, that's the level of immaturity I was at. But the whole point was, she texted me the picture of the tattoo, and I was upset, and all I replied was, okay, right? Mm-hmm. And then she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing is wrong. I just said, okay. She's like, I know something's wrong.
So you're being passive-aggressive, upset, and emotionally immature.
Right, basically, which is the story of my life.
But in all fairness, I just getting technically stood up on a date or something like that would get anybody, the guy or girl, upset. So
thank you.
Obviously, you would be pissed.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. That's something... I need a guy to come around and say that. Not
a guy, even a girl. A girl that says that that's not the case is lying. Because if I stood up my girl on a date and, told her anything, told her I went to the store, she would be upset. Let alone telling her, I went to go get a tattoo. That kind of like exacerbates it in the negative for her, in my opinion, or for whoever is doing the standing up. Standing up in itself is bad. Like that, and the fact that whatever you're doing doesn't make it better or worse.
Well, I was technically canceled on, but I still felt stood up.
Yeah.
But
that's a little different then.
All right. I mean, I look at that all the same. We had plans, and all of a sudden, the plans didn't come through, and you got a tattoo. That's how I saw it. Yeah.
I could see that, but
But yeah, I guess I don't know.
It's different from if somebody just doesn't show up and.
Oh no
it's
no no no
because
no
she's
no.
gonna tattoo.
No, that didn't happen. I mean,
Okay.
we were supposed to go out that day. I think it was restaurant week, and she was like, you know, looking at a whole bunch of restaurants and asking me which ones I wanted to go to, and
All right, so it's different. So
yeah,
she canceled and then she went to do something else.
yes, there you go. All right,
But,
if you want to get detailed, yeah, that basically she canceled. She did not stand me up. All right, so she canceled and ended up getting a tattoo. So then, the tattoo that she got said, "Love, believe." Damn.
You should probably know what the tattoo says.
Shit. No, I know it, but I mean, right now it just slipped my mind. That's funny. Love, believe, and faith.
Okay.
That's what her tattoo says, right?
Believe or belief?
Believe. Love, believe, and...
It sounds like you should say belief. If it says faith.
Can I just check that 1 second? You could probably pause this right now because you said that, you know, every 10 minutes or something you're going to pause it?
Yeah.
All right.
So the tattoo says...
Love, faith, and believe, right? I didn't care what that tattoo said that night. I was just pissed. And that's it, right? And I was just like, yeah, I'm pissed off, and I'm never going to talk to Janet again.
And this was the argument you had the night before finding out that she was pregnant.
Exactly. And she did not stand me up. She canceled the dinner date before because, you know, she was mad at me for being immature.
Okay. So then fast forward to she throws the phone on your desk.
So she throws the phone on my desk, and I look at the phone, and the first thing I think about is like, all right, let me comfort Janet. And I was like, listen, this isn't the end of the world. Which is exactly what you say when the end of the world is coming, right? Mm-hmm. So I tell her that, and she's shaking, and she's scared, and she's nervous.
It's the end of the world as we know it, just not the end of the world.
Yeah. We're basically killing ourselves as we know it, and we're gonna morph into something else now. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so she told me that, and I had a pit in my stomach that I hadn't felt since I was like, I don't know, since I was like maybe like 20 years old, and you know, my heart had been broken. Mm-hmm. And I just remember like just having this hole in my stomach. Not even my stomach, well, yeah, right underneath the heart. That's the stomach, not the belly, the stomach.
You're around your gallbladder, if you're speaking anatomy wise.
Well,
you felt fucked up.
I was pretty fucked up, and I was just like, man, look at this. So you are pregnant. Now let me rewind the story. So about a month and a half earlier, my coworker says, "Hey Dave, you know I never dream about anybody here in the office, and I had a dream about you." And I had a dream that you were building a nursery in the back of the file room. I work in the file room. And I was like, oh, okay. I hope, you know, that dream doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You know?
I hope it doesn't come true.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't mean anything, but thank you for sharing. And Mom had been bugging me, saying like, oh, you know, someone told me I'm going to have a grandchild, and, you know, I have a feeling, you know, I'm going to have a grandchild. And I was just like, nope, it's not me. So I'm in denial. You know, I'm just like, these people are all crazy.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. And then 2 weeks later, after my coworker tells me about that dream, this girl who's been working next to me for, you know, the past 6 years tells me I'm pregnant. And, you know, and I was just like, congratulations. And she was telling me about her, you know, the days that she was going to take off, you know, for maternity leave. And, you know, she had it all planned out. Yeah. I'm assuming it wasn't a surprise for her because she had it all planned out. And secretly inside, I'm jumping up and down for joy, like, yes.
Like, whatever everybody else was picking up was probably because
because she works right next to me. For the past 6 years, 8 hours a day. I mean, you know, whatever the universe is sending out, they must have mixed the signals, and it's this girl's pregnancy. So I'm just like, all right, Janet, let's go out this weekend. Let's continue, you know, having fun and whatever. But anyways, so January is going on and February is going on, and our relationship is not that great, right? Because she's getting sick of me. And I'm worried because I'm just like, wow, she's never been this sick of me. Like, I think I might lose her. You know, because normally I felt like, all right, we'd argue, but we'd always be cool. At the end of the day, it'll be an argument, and then 5 minutes later, we're joking around and we're okay. But I felt like, all right,
the gaps between the arguments were longer, getting longer.
Basically, yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, we weren't okay at that time. And then all of a sudden, I'm looking at her around the office, and she comes over every once in a while to visit me, and I'm just like staring at her belly. I'm just like, man, this girl looks pregnant.
This is before she told you?
This is before she told me.
Okay.
And secretly, she's been thinking the same thing, because she even bought a pregnancy test,
Yeah.
and we're both like sort of like ignoring the elephant in the room, but we're both thinking about it,
like putting off the inevitable.
Yeah, basically. And so I remember one day it was really, really cold, and Mom was working somewhere in Brooklyn, and she calls me up. She was at work late, and I'm like, I'll go pick you up, and I'm on my way to pick Mom up. I'm calling Janet up, and I'm trying to like figure out a way to tell her like, maybe you should start using protection, or we should take care of ourselves. She's like, yeah, I've been thinking about it, blah, blah, but it never went more than that, the conversation. But I said it lightly, but I was like really like seriously thinking about it, like, oh my God, this is important, like.
And it was a good plan in theory, but
it was yes.
Didn't put it into practice.
It was an exercise. It was an ambitious exercise in thinking, but I didn't make it. Yeah, right. It didn't. No. She ended up getting pregnant, and so, yeah, that's how I found out that she was pregnant. And so there's this girl. I always tell myself this. It probably sounds a lot sweeter to me. Probably nobody cares, but she came. Oh, that's by my job.
Yeah.
So. Anyways, nah, I don't want to say this part actually. But, she came over to me like scared and worried about her pregnancy, and then with a tattoo on her back that said "Love, Faith, and Believe" with a cross on it. So I always like find that kind of like sweet and funny. You know?
That is.
Yeah. So that's it. That's how I found out that Janet was pregnant.
And now, from that point on, from finding out that your life is going to change in a drastic way, obviously, you're about to father a child, what has been, like, going through your mind? Like, what are your thoughts of how, like, parenting is going to be? What are your thoughts of, like, that day, the big day, when the baby comes? And anything along those lines that you've thought about since that day?
Well,
which is, I'm assuming, is like a mixed bag of different types of feelings on different days and stuff like that. But generally speaking, like, what is your, as of now, pre-parenthood, what is your outlook on how it's going to be?
For me, I think it's mostly fear of the unknown. Right? And I counter that fear by saying two things. A, if a 14-year-old girl, single girl, can raise a child, so can I. I mean, I'm 35 years old, and, Janet seems like she's going to be a great mother. I mean, how can I screw this up? And not only that, I mean, we have a whole bunch of family that's excited for this baby to come.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's not... That's what I always tell myself. If a 14-year-old girl can do it, so can I.
So, worst case scenario, if you do screw it up, you're...
Yeah, I'm worse than a 14-year-old single mom.
A great brother that is a...
horrible father.
Gonna be a great uncle that could take care of the kid.
Right.
And the rest of the family, obviously.
But I can't take care of...
and has your back.
Right, exactly. Wait, repeat that again?
A family that is excited and has your back in terms of, like, the child.
Right. And then the other thing is, there's like 7 billion people on the planet, right? It can't be that hard. I mean, come on. I mean, there's 7 billion morons on the planet. You know what I mean? And, it can't be that hard. I mean, if there's so many of us out here, it can't be that hard to raise a kid. So whenever I do get scared, like, I know it'll be all right.
Yeah, definitely.
The only thing that what really intrigues me is actually, when I see grown men, and, I don't know if it's because I wasn't sensitive to it in the past, but when they do see that, like, Janet's pregnant, or, a conversation comes up about their kids, like they literally melt. Most of the guys that I've met,
because they empathize with it. Like, it's different from probably not having a kid or being about to have a kid. It's like a different. You could sympathize with the person, but you can't really have that connection of knowing what they're talking about.
Right. And I guess I'm hanging around different guys now because, when I was single, I'd hang out with single dudes and, guys who might have had kids, but it didn't really faze them. You know what I mean? So they were out partying.
Still acting like.
Yeah, they were still acting like they were childless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wasn't getting that. But, I guess now that I'm, like, more laid back and I'm hanging around family men more, like, I literally see them, like, melt when when their kids are mentioned, and how, no matter what they've done in their life, like, that's the single most important thing to them,
Something I'm interested in asking you now, and I'll ask you again later. For everybody listening, we're gonna do like a before Emma podcast and after Emma podcast after she's born, down the line. But what I want to ask is something that I've heard and I've just always been curious about, and I've asked like a couple people that have kids, is like obviously everybody loves their kids and they'll do anything for their kids and stuff like that, but I've heard it described as, and I'm curious if you feel that now before having a kid, as like a primal, like instinctive type of I will literally die for this child like type of feeling. Like if that's something that really like materializes like after having the child, or maybe you might even feel it before, or if it's people probably mean it. I'm not saying they don't mean it, but just not like a visceral type of feeling. Like it's just like something like, oh yeah, of course I'll do anything for my child, as any good parent would. But if there's really like a switch, is what I'm interested in, of like when the child is actually born, and you have that, you could speak to that at that point in time, or like do you feel that already?
Well, I'm sorry if Emma is listening to this. Fast forward into the future, but I mean, I don't think that thought of like dying for my child has not crossed my mind. I mean, it's not like we're in The Walking Dead or World War Z or anything like that. I mean, there's very limited reasons why I would have to die for my child. I mean, name one.
I don't know.
Exactly.
But it's more of an expression.
All right. Okay. My point. All right. Fine. The only thing I can say to sort of answer your question is, ever since Emma's existence,
like I know. Sorry to cut you off. But I know I know like mom and dad have that feeling like towards us. Like I could like feel that from them. You know what I mean?
I have the same feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I have the same feeling. Like, I was brought up in a household where I'm pretty sure my parents would die for me, and not only that, like, they'd have my back no matter what. Like, that's never been tested or, phased, or I've never had that doubt, no matter what an asshole teenager I was or what a bad kid I was. Like, I knew at the end of the day, around my mom and my dad, I'd be fine,
Yeah.
The only thing what I can say, as far as like Emma's concerned, I've never met her before. I mean, I saw her when she was just like a little tiny sack inside her mother's belly. I saw her on the screen. But as soon as she's been around, all my decisions have been made
with her in mind.
With her in mind first, and Janet, and then I think about myself. Like, I have no issues compromising myself, or, I have no issues putting myself third. And I've always been pretty selfless, I think, but it's never been a question of, what's best for me and then what's best for them, and then me weigh it out. You know what I mean? It's always been like, all right, what's best for this child, and what's best for Janet, and then, what's going on with me? How do I fit in there? I can't handle everything else.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, huh?
That's awesome. That's like the makings of a good father.
That's how I feel now. Like, that's where I'm at now. And that's without meeting her. So it's kind of, it is kind of I guess I have the same question that you do. I definitely have the same question. Well, like, all right, what happens after she's born? You know?
Yeah.
How am I gonna feel after that? And because I see it with these guys, you know, that I ask questions about their families, and like I've seen grown men tear up, and you know they don't mind getting soft, and you know,
Like that
being
instinctual.
vulnerable. Yeah, and instinctively being vulnerable. Like, yeah, you know, I love my child to death. You know, period. And you know, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and so forth. I'm just like, wow, I could see that happening. I don't know. I'll answer this question soon enough. For the viewers, they're probably just gonna have to fast forward and find out. But you know, in a few months or whatever, I'll be able to answer that a little bit better.
True. That's something that I hear too, like from that's like common from a commonality within like parents or like recently like new parents. Like always saying like that type of thing. That that's like the best thing that ever happened to them. You know, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it work. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing.
Yeah, it's I have an issue with that actually.
I honestly, I don't see how it's that much work. I mean, I haven't gone through it in any way, shape, or form, but I don't know. I don't think it's, and I don't mean like it's not a lot of work in the sense of, oh, I'm gonna love to do it. So you know, if you love to do something, it doesn't really feel like work. I don't mean it in that sense. I just mean like, in practical terms, like I don't think it's a lot of work. Like I don't see it being a lot of work.
That is
I don't know
because,
why.
my friend, you have. There's no way for you to understand. It's a lot.
Yeah, I know that.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It definitely seems like it's going to be a lot of work because, like I said, you are going to have to. Right now, the grasp that I have about parenthood is that it magnetizes who you are. If you're an emotionless asshole, it's just going to make you that much more. It's just going to have you have that much less emotion and that much bigger an asshole. And if you're, you know, a family man and you know you you're selfless and you care about people or whatever, it magnetizes that too. So, you know, I'm speaking from you know, from a standpoint of like, you know, I do value family. Yeah. So obviously the decisions that I make are having, you know, Emma in mind. You know, where like my day is gonna evolve around this child, you know? So it does take a lot of work if you want to keep that child a priority. True. That's the only way I can think of. So, let me see. Let me use an example. Like, right now you're into these podcasts, right? Yeah. It's a lot of work, right? You have to freaking sit down and talk to people. And then, after you're done talking to them, you have to go on the computer and start editing. You know.
Well, these are all unedited.
All right. Excuse me. Sorry. Tony has an unedited podcast.
That's the main, like, staple of the podcast. Like, gotcha. These are all unedited.
But you were telling me, like, you have to worry about sound quality.
Yeah, shit like that. But, like, by the time people hear this one, which is being pre-recorded on... What's today's date?
Today is the 20...
Today's October...
2nd.
22nd, 2014. So, by the time people hear this, they will have heard at least 3, maybe 4 podcasts that were partially edited, because those are the audiobooks, which, you know, for obvious reasons are edited, at least like the reading part of the actual audiobook, because those I, you know, try my best, sorry if they're not that great, but to make them sound as like professional as possible. They have like some sound effects mixed in and shit like that.
Don't feel so sorry.
But aside from that, the regular podcasts are just completely unedited, because I like that. My favorite thing about podcasts are like that raw, unedited quality of them. But yeah, you do have to worry about shit like sound quality and stuff like that, right, and actually uploading it, and you know.
And because you like podcasts, you listen to them, right? Mm-hmm. You pick up things from other podcasters.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you worry about the sound quality. I'm sure you got to start pressing buttons or whatever the fuck you do, mm-hmm, to make it sound better. And then you have to sit down with people. You have to, you know, sort of figure out a way to formulate these podcasts into making them into something that somebody would want to listen to, right?
Yeah.
Is that work for you? Like,
No.
you enjoy it, right?
I do. I enjoy it a lot.
That's the same shit. Like, imagine something that, like, you know, like Dave Chappelle says, like, you came from my balls. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you know, like, imagine something that's part of you. You know, like, it's, obviously it's work. I mean, all right. We used to live in a house, right? Now there's two, so obviously you gotta, you know, you gotta plow 2 sidewalks, right?
Yeah.
However, you have double the space. You know what I mean? And you have extra parking. But anyways,
it's worth it work.
It's worth it work.
So
I mean, come on.
Work.
So when I hear people just freaking sit down and be like, oh, wait, it's a lot of work. Oh, wait, you can't sleep. Yeah, I fucking get it. Like, I know. You know, I'm not going to be able to, you know, live a single guy lifestyle and wake up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and wonder, am I going to go to the gym today or am I going to order Chinese? Yeah. I get that's gone. But I'm also going to have a kid, you know, like, don't just stop there. Don't just say, like, oh, you know, you're not going to sleep as much as you used to. Or, oh, you know, it's going to be really hard. All right. You know, put it into perspective.
Plus, you also get the added benefit of the things that you will be able to do that you weren't able to do without a kid.
That stuff actually looks kind of boring, actually. I've seen fathers. Kids aren't that much fun. I mean, you got to entertain them all the time. But cool. I'm just kidding. Like, yeah, no, they're cool. But I'm just saying, like, you know, I don't see it as, like, a lot of... I see it that, yeah, there's going to be different kind of work going on. And, you know, obviously I'm going to have more stuff on my plate. But it doesn't sound as horrible as people make it sound. I don't think so. I don't get that. Like, it doesn't come across to me as...
I don't think so either.
Yeah, it doesn't come across to me as that. You know, unless, you know, that, you know, maybe... There's people out there who don't want kids, you know what I mean? And I could see how it might be annoying to have to, like, you know, wake up at night and feed something and, you know, teach it how to read and walk and fend for itself. You know, like, this is really annoying. I'd rather be at the club. You know what I mean? Like, you know, those people exist.
True.
You know what I mean? And it's okay to feel like that, you know, if that's your thing.
To each his own.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as he's not born to, like the Exorcist kid or something like that.
I'm actually worried about that. I am. I mean, you know, every time we go to a doctor's appointment, there's something else wrong with Janet. And the kid is intact. Like, there's nothing wrong with her. Like, she is, like, perfectly fine, you know. For the first 5 months, you know, Janet was bleeding and she could have lost the kid. She was at, like, a 40% chance of surviving. And the kid's always been fine. You know, it's always been Janet's body. You know what I mean? So, you know, who knows? Might be birthing the Antichrist, you know. Actually, Janet might get mad if I say that. Nah,
what would you do if it's like a kid that you have to send to like those scared straight shows and stuff like that? Omori. Like they're just so fucking bad and fucked up.
What would I do if she ends up being a fuck up?
That'll suck.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I think eventually you sort of have to just, you know, throw in the towel. You know what I mean?
At some point, yeah. As long as you provide like a good foundation.
Right.
Which, like, our family, obviously I'm biased, but I feel like our family is, and is able
Everybody
to provide...
Everybody thinks their family's awesome.
Yeah, but I don't mean awesome. I just mean, like, a good, like, solid, like, we support you emotionally and, you know, in every other way, type of family. And, you know, certain things out of your control, obviously. But as long as, like, those things are in place, which I feel that they are, she should be fine, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm not too worried about that. I mean, that would kind of suck, right? If she hasn't even come out yet, I'm already worried about like going to Maury with her. Mm-hmm. But yeah. I mean, you know, if she ends up being a fuck up,
that's fucked up, Emma.
Yeah, that is really messed up, Emma. I mean, come on. I mean, your mother and I tried so hard, and look at what you've done. No, I don't know. That's not something I'm thinking about.
But if you're a good kid, you know, keep it up, keep going.
Exactly.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I don't know.
You excited?
I am definitely excited. Yeah. I mean, this is...
More excited than nervous? Or like about the same? Or more nervous than excited?
I'm not nervous.
Really? Mm-mm. I would be nervous.
I was. I mean, I went through my nervous patches, you know.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm not nervous. I can't say that I am.
That's cool. That's probably like that father instinct, like already kick in.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like someone told me. I mean, you have no time to be nervous. Like all the bullshit that I used to think about when I was single and with no responsibilities. You know, of why not to get into a serious relationship, of why not to have kids yet. Mean shit now. You know what I mean? Like, I have no time to worry about that. There's a kid coming, and I have to get my act together. You know what I mean? And I have to,
There's no negotiation. Like, whether you like it or not, you gotta...
No, I can't sit in my room and pout about my thoughts anymore. You know, like, there's things that are set in motion that are coming my way.
It's a rise to the occasion type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little dramatic, but yeah, I mean...
but it is. It really is. Like, you have to rise to the occasion. You have to, like, man up and take care of what you have to take care of. Like, you don't have a choice, basically. You feel that way.
You always have a choice. You always have a choice.
Yeah, but not in this type of situation. Like, you...
For me, it's
like,
not a choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Based on the type of person that you are, the upbringing that you have, and how you feel towards wanting to bring up your child in like a similar or better way, which is what I feel we should strive for, and you know, offspring and stuff like that. It's not really a choice because that's like the goal. You know what I mean? Like you push for that goal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What makes sense?
That, like, feeling that way. Like, you feeling that way makes sense to me.
Yeah, like not being nervous?
Yeah.
Can't be. I mean, listen, we grew up pretty poor in a basement, right? You know, for a long time. And, you know, Mom and Dad used to be on medical assistance. They didn't speak good English. You know, we had to figure out how to, you know.
They still don't speak good English.
They
not
do.
like,
They do.
Now they're scholars.
They fucking act like they don't, but they understand everything.
No, they absolutely understand everything, but...
Not to, like, make it sound like, oh, you know, we had a horrible life or whatever, but...
Not at all.
You know, we didn't. It was great.
Yeah.
You know, even with, you know, not having...
We had all the essentials. Like, we never needed anything like that, but just not all the shit we wanted.
Which is, like, basically like every other kid, I assume. Well... Yeah. Every other kid I knew. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like for example, I never had cable. You know, I started watching MTV when I was like 20. When I put cable in the house.
True.
But I've never experienced like being at home without food on the table or electricity missing. You know what I mean? Like Chris Rock says always, like in one of his specials, he goes, "Well, nobody ever thanks Dad for the electricity. Thanks, Dad, we got electricity." You know what I mean? Like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, like we all the essentials, we always had it. You know what I mean? We always had clothes on our back. You know, we went to school, and you know there was electricity in the house. We never, like, I never grew up feeling like, oh my God, you know, like when's my next meal coming, or
we never had those worries.
Yeah, right. Or where are we gonna live now? And you know, I'm scared. You know, Mom and Dad might break up. Like, there's no way in hell like any of that would have happened.
True.
Which is nice. That's definitely nice.
Yeah.
And it's something that you take for granted. I feel like I took that for granted.
Yeah, because, I mean, when you're a kid...
Yeah, you always bitch and complain.
Because to you, you know, not having the latest fucking Genesis video game or something like that is like...
important.
Yeah.
Important.
That's your world, and the whole world's going to crash because you don't have fucking Sonic the Hedgehog 2 or whatever the fuck.
Right. And then you get older and you're hanging out around friends who are, like, complaining about... you know, growing up and, you know, their parents' divorces and, you know, going without, you know, some essentials, and then you're like, wow, I'm an asshole.
Yeah, then you realize how good you really
are. Yeah, you're like, wow, like, all right, that puts things into perspective.
Like, there's always people not better, there's always people better than you and worse than you, or better off and worse off than you. So...
yeah.
Yeah, it's always a matter of perspective, I think.
It is. And I feel like I lucked out, man. You know, I'm having this kid, and, you know, the other thing is, like, you know, me and Janet, we weren't, I mean, we've known each other for a long time. I mean, we've known each other for like 7 years. Well, we've known of each other for like 7 years. But we started like, seeing each other like 2 years ago. And, she's, I like her. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure you've had your ups and downs like any relationship, but so now more ups than downs has gotten you to the point where you're at now.
or more downs than ups. No, I'm just kidding. No, definitely, no. Yeah, definitely. Like, that, the other thing, which I don't want to take for granted is like, she's a big part of why I'm not nervous. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
like I kind of know the person that she is, and I feel comfortable with her. I I just feel comfortable with her, and even when we were dating, and she did become pregnant. When I told her, "Yo, this isn't the end of the world," is because that's how I felt. Like, all right, that's
Like, you had a partner that you could work it out with.
Yeah. Like
you didn't
that's
have to
never.
worry.
I was never like, oh my god, I hope this chick does not become pregnant. I was more of a like, all right, I hope she doesn't become pregnant, but if she does, that's cool. Like, we'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how she always made me feel. So, so that's a big help of like me not being nervous, because I mean, we've all heard the horror stories, and these girls who weren't really down for the cause, and guys end up being stressed out, and who knows, maybe in the third podcast I'll be bitching and complaining about Janet, but
well, fighting for custody of the child,
right, fighting for custody of the child, and restraining orders against us, but for the most part, like, we've been together for 2 years, and like, we've never had like a moment where we've like literally like tried to kill each other, or we didn't want to like talk to each other again. You know what I mean? Like, It's always been like, I don't know. Now looking back, like, it's basically me being immature for a long time. So that helps with me not being nervous.
True. That's like an invaluable thing, like to like have that like trust in your partner, I think, in that type of situation. Like, you need that. Like, it's a necessary thing.
Yeah. Like, I know that Janet will be there for Emma no matter what.
Exactly.
And that's nice. Like, I know that she'll put her, and she thinks of me, and that's really important, and that's something that you can easily take for granted as a human being.
Yeah. And it's a lot, and it gives you, like, knowing that gives you like a lot less shit to worry about.
Right. Because I've been in bad relationships, and I always I don't know, when I hear guys talking about their girlfriends and how happy they are on podcasts or on the radio, I always think it's funny, but I'm pretty happy with Janet. Like, that's not something that I'm worried about.
That's good.
The only thing I could compare, like, for example, like, when I do worry about Emma, is like basically worrying about the unknown, sort of like starting a new job, and you don't know who your coworkers are going to be, but at the end of the day, you're getting a new job, you're going to make more money, and it's a nicer place that you're going to work for, whatever, but it's just the unknown of like what to expect,
which is something I always used to like worry about, and realize now, like, it's like such bullshit. Like, anybody that does worry about that type of thing, like that type of like change, let's say specifically like jobs and that type of thing, like, it's really not. Don't worry about it, basically, because like I'm somebody that isn't like that open to change and doesn't like change too much, but like I realized, like, after like moving to different jobs and stuff like that, like, it honestly it's gotten better and better, and if it did get worse, then the next one, if it got worse and you left that one and go to another one, most likely would be, like, odds are that much better. You know what I mean? So it's definitely not something to, like, stress out about.
I agree.
Or anything like that. I've just had, like, as I've changed, like, jobs to jobs, I've had, like, ups and downs and stuff like that along the line. But ultimately, like, it's been, like, positive experiences.
I totally agree. I mean, change is good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't change, you'd literally be on your back waiting for your mother to feed you and somebody to change your Pampers. I mean, change is good. You get up and you start walking, and you're gonna fall and cry and fall and then get back up again, and then before you know, you're jumping and running and you're falling, and getting a cast on you, and that's life.
That's how you learn shit, and you meet different people and weed out the bullshit people. Surround yourself with more positive people and stuff like that.
Totally. Totally.
You know what I wanted?
Life is awesome.
You know what I wanted to tell you? Life is awesome, and you're about to create a life.
I am. Yes. I'm about to take something.
You're the creator.
I'm about to take something from Janet's ovaries, my balls, and soon it's gonna be walking and talking and complaining about why I didn't get it the new sneakers that came out. How they want the latest record on iTunes.
You know what I wanted to tell you too? The completely unrelated, but I read more into the book that you told me about initially. The Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz.
I like that one.
And it's really good. I'm almost halfway through, I think. But I've read, remember I told you the Oscar part was my favorite part? I finished reading the part of the mother, Belly.
Yeah.
And that shit is awesome.
Right? Her story is great.
Yeah. It got a lot better, I thought.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Her story is great. I like her story because I think she was misunderstood in DR, and she wanted to get ahead in life, and she was a young girl know-it-all, right? I shouldn't be talking about this book right over the podcast.
You could.
All right. So, young girl know-it-all or whatever, and got herself into trouble, and her success led her into a horrible marriage in New Jersey, where she gave birth to Oscar Wilde and a husband who didn't really care about her.
Actually, I haven't gotten that far yet, but
whoops. Let me stop. Yeah. But anyways,
spoiler alert.
Right, spoiler alert. But anyways, it's it's freaking life. At the end of the day, I've fallen into both parts of life where I sit at home paralyzed, thinking about all the things that can go wrong. And I sit at home just thinking about bad things that can happen. And I've also fallen into the side of hey, you know what? It's just life. Let me go out there and live it. And I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, even now, for example, with this child who wasn't planned coming into the world, and me being in a relationship with Janet, and our situation, probably from the outside looking in, looks all sorts of fucked up. I know that because, traditionally, it's not traditional, we're not
depending
married.
on who's looking in. To some people, it looks amazing, oh, they did it right. And to some people, it looks fucked up.
That's true.
You're always it's a matter of perspective, you said before.
Right. I mean, I have a little bit of insight in our relationship, and I was oh, we get along, and, we like each other, and we want each other around, so, there's a kid coming, and, there's life coming out of this. That's cool. But however, we didn't get married first, and we didn't court each other for years, and, whatever. But it's just life, you know what I mean? You just gotta live through life and try to enjoy yourself and try to find the niche for yourself where you're with what makes you happy, because it's really easy to sit at home and just, totally be you know what, that's not worth the effort. And if I try this, I'm going to get hurt. And I might fail if I do that. And, why would I invest my energy in something when I might ultimately fail? You can literally do that and talk yourself out of
everything.
Not changing. Yeah, out of everything. Or you could just live and, figure it out as you go. And try not to compromise yourself and, don't kill anybody or, don't kill anybody.
Don't go that balls to the wall.
Right. Don't ruin somebody else's life while you're doing it. But, I mean, I remember when I was all right. I'll tell you this much. When I was 18 and I graduated from high school, I was well, I have to get a job, a good job, and I'm going to go to college and I want to be a lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. And then that was my big thing. I was just I want to be responsible because I want to get ahead in life, and I want, you know, I want to one day make a lot of money and you know, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the hell, you know, fucking kids always think about.
Because that's what you felt you were supposed to do.
That's what I felt I was supposed to do. I mean, listen, you're 18 years old. You don't have any experience. You sort of like think you know what it is that you want for yourself. You know what I mean? You see people and you're like, oh, look at that guy's life. You know, that looks pretty cool. I want to do that.
Exactly.
And then by the time I was 20 years old, I remember I would quit my job. I quit my job one time. I think it was like in November, right? Because, all right, there was a couple of coworkers that I didn't like, and they made my life miserable when I was at work, right? And every time I would go to work, I would be like super depressed, like going into work. The only thing that made me happy was I remember I used to go to Starbucks, and there was this girl that was like really nice to me and I liked, and she always used to give me free coffee. And I used to go down there and I used to get in line and get my coffee, and I used to like, you know, fix up my free coffee and go upstairs and go to work. And that was the highlight of my day because these girls were so horrible. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to spend the winter in the Dominican Republic. You know what I mean? Like, I used to, like, just, you know, like, I took that bad situation and I made it into, like, all right, I'm going to spend the winter in the Dominican Republic, and I learned how to drive a truck. And I was loading it up with sand, and I was doing deliveries around this freaking country and town that I didn't know. You know, and I had an experience that was great, you know, and it all stemmed from these girls who made my life a living hell. You know what I mean? And if I still would see them in the street, I'd probably still hate them. But, you know, like, I made it into a good experience. I could have literally sat there for another 2 years and been miserable.
True.
With these
Which
girls.
a lot of people do.
Right. And I just ended up leaving, and I ended up having something that I'm 35 years old, and I still talk about that experience that I had. You know, and you know, I met some nice people in DR, you know, and I got to know them for almost 2 months, you know. And, you know, I did that 1 year, and then I did it another year, too, you know, like, that's living, you know, and here I am, I'm still here, and, you know, Janet's still pregnant, and I'm having a kid. So it's just life, you know, bad things happen.
You gotta go through it.
But you gotta go through it, absolutely. You can literally talk yourself out of anything if you want to go down that route. Or you could just go through it and hope everything comes out alright. And either way, we're all gonna fucking die.
And you can talk yourself into anything also.
That's true too. That's true too.
My thing is taking from both sides of that, like a balance. Which is something that like, similar to like what Dad always says. Which is like you can do everything you want to do within like the rules. Which doesn't translate exactly. But he says que todo se puede hacer con la regla, or dentro de la regla, or something like that.
That's true.
And it's pretty much like a more balanced approach to that. And
that's pretty.
Definitely with that.
I like that saying too. However, you don't want to freaking like, you know, sit there like that guy. You know what a balance is. You know what I mean? You slap your finger to the left twice, and then you slap it back to the right a little bit until you get the balance right on the scale. You know, you don't want to sit there all your life trying to get a balance. Okay. You know what I mean? I mean, life throws things at you.
Alright, cool. So, we're going a bit long on this one. So, to wrap things up, I was thinking, do you have like any final thoughts about being a father? Or any advice to your unborn child, Emma?
Sure. Let me see. So, Emma, we're not planned. But you're not a mistake.
You're a pleasant surprise, an epiphany.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, you were definitely not planned. But, like, I love you already. You know, like, you're not born. I haven't met you. You haven't smiled at me or cried at me or, you know, pooped. But I love you. And, yeah, I pretty much love you. And I love your mother, and I'm trying to have a life with you guys, and I hope it turns out to be fun, and this podcast is probably going to air in a couple of weeks, but right now I feel like I'm talking to Emma in the future, and, you know, I hope I turned out to be something positive in your life, and ultimately, right now, that's all that pretty much matters. And I don't know, when we do this podcast, we'll find out if I still feel the same way.
Fast forward to a month from now.
This is horrible. Oh my God, she does not stop crying.
Nobody have kids.
And she's so ugly.
Stop breeding, please. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's the episode, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. And if you guys actually have any parenting or parenthood related stories that you want to share, feel free to drop me a line. Let me know if you want me to read your story on the podcast. And or if you guys have any advice, any of you skilled long-term parents have any parental advice, or any how to be the baby's favorite uncle advice, that would be cool too. So remember, stay tuned for episode number 2 of this 2-part podcast, which is technically episode number 8 of the Spun Today podcast, which is going to be the interview with David of the post-Emma interview. In that interview, Emma was already born, and probably like a couple weeks after she was born, maybe a month, if I remember correctly. Actually, no, what am I saying? She's not even a month old now. I think she's about to be a month old, or something like that. So, stay tuned for that episode, which is going to be the next episode after this one, which is going to air in about 2 weeks. Also, another podcast which I've been hooked on lately, which I think I mentioned in a previous episode, but if I did, it's worth mentioning again, and if I didn't, it's definitely worth mentioning and for you guys to check it out. It's called Serial, Serial. You could actually go to the website, serialpodcast.org. Sarah Koenig does an amazing job of just captivating the fuck out of you. And I know I'm not alone in this, because there was like a story about it in the New York Times, and it's a super popular podcast. It like blew the hell up. I heard episode number 1. This is the first season of it. There's been only 9 episodes. Episode number 1 aired on This American Life, and from there on, as planned, it pretty much spun off into its own thing. And what it is Sarah Koenig is a journalist that is covering one story week by week, and currently it's in week 9. The story is a murder that took place in Maryland in 1999. It was the murder of Heyman Lee, which was a high school student somewhere in Maryland. I forget the name of the school or the town. And pretty much her ex-boyfriend, Adnan Syed, has been locked up since then for about 15 years. 15 years, I think, something like that. And he's in jail for life. That was his sentence. And she delves into the story and goes through it, because there's like a lot of controversy of, he didn't do it, he did do it. And she takes you through all these ups and downs by reviewing the case, going through all the case notes, the court paperwork, attorney's notes, interviews of the jury, members of the jury, interviews of the friends and relatives of both, actually not Haley's relatives, but the relatives of Adnan Syed. He calls in, I think like weekly, and she questions him, and she's spoken to like teachers and pretty much everybody and anybody that's had anything to do like with the case, and it's pretty sick. You go through like periods of, yeah, this guy definitely did it, and then periods of like, what the fuck? There's literally 3 people that were never that were never questioned or or that officially gave a testimony like in the courtroom that may have reached out to the police or something like that and said, this kid was with me and at this and at such and such time, which completely contradicts the state's timeline for when the murder was actually committed and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, how the fuck could this dude be in jail if this is going on? And vice versa, then, there's certain situations that are like, oh yeah, that's why, okay, yeah, he definitely did it. And I know we all have I guess this like peripheral idea of, there are innocent people in jail, there are people that aren't innocent that are not in jail, etc. But going so deep into a story the way she's doing, and just going through like the nuances of the case and stuff like that, you really get a unique and objective understanding of just that entire legal system as a whole and all the nooks and crannies that make it up. So you guys should definitely check that out. Again, the name of the podcast is Serial, Serial, or check out their website, serialpodcast.org. You can listen to all the episodes there. And there's also like photographs and copies of phone transcripts and that were used in the actual case and stuff like that. So check that out. And remember to sign up to the newsletter, spuntoday.com. Under the contact page at the bottom, you'll see an option to subscribe. That'll just be for periodic emails, letting you know whenever new content is posted on the website, whenever these new podcast episodes come out, and to keep you in the loop. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Spun Today. And remember, stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be the follow-up episode to this, where we hear David's take after having a kid. And as always, folks, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening.